Welcome back to what is a very cold 2-Minute Tuesday. Intro! Hey, I'm on the bank, I'm fishing, and I'm on a new water, never fished here before. This is day 3 of a big bank. This is a 37-acre lake. It's got a head of about maybe 50, 60 fish. There's an A-team in here of about 15 fish, which is what we're after. These 15 fish are big. I've been in here for a good few years. They're all kind of 28 to 30 pound plus, and this is the home of the Irish record of 33 and change. I can never remember what the Irish record is, but yeah, it's I think it's about 32, 33 pound, and this is not an easy venue by any means. 37 acres, the average depth, I mean, it's all pontoon fishing, it's all stands, and straight off the stands is anywhere between 12 and 15 feet deep, straight off the stands, and it just goes out into a bowl, featureless as anything. And it's around 25, 30 feet out in the very center part. It is a little bit early in the year for this lake. Being such a deep lake, it doesn't warm up too quick. And so I am probably a little bit ahead of myself fishing here. But you know, for me, these journeys are always a good exploratory trip. But that's enough waffle about where I'm at. But I had to give you that information to give you an idea of where my thinking is at for what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and we're going to roll into what this actual video is about. 2 minutes. Right, and it's never going to be 2 minutes, you know, but I'm going to do this quick. So my thinking is, before I go, I need to put a little bit of bait out all along the marginal shelf along this side of the bank. The reason why I'm picking this side of the bank is because the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, so this bank gets the most sunshine during the day, and it means that this area is going to heat up the most, and the carp are going to move along this shoreline. In my head, this is the logic. But as I said, from my swim right down to the bottom end of the lake, it's around, it starts off probably 15, 20 foot out, a rod length out, but as you go further up, it's a little bit shallower, and I do think that shallowness, that shallower bit is going to produce carp first in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-bait with some boilies before I go. And the way I'm doing it, because I'm fishing a marginal shelf, the carp will come along it and feed off it. But I don't want the baits rolling down that marginal shelf. So I've got 2 points of attack: the type of bait I'm going to use, and also what I'm going to do to it. And what I'm going to do to is I'm going to chop it up. Now, there are various methods. You can take a knife and cut them in half. You can crumble them and squash them into halves, or flat boilies. And what I want to do is I want them to sit on that marginal shelf without rolling down to the very bottom where it's a lot deeper. It rolls down to about 20 odd feet, and I don't really want it to go that far down because I do think the carp will come along the edge more so. So I'm using what is a handy little device. This is the Ridge Monkey chopper, and I'm just chopping up my baits into halves. It just makes it a lot faster and a lot quicker. The baits I'm making up are a combination. I've got trigger, cream kajausa, strawberry and bergamot oil. I've got Techni Spice, and I've got trigger and pineapple and butyric as well. Now the key feature of all of the baits I've got with me are they are all shelf life ready-made baits. Now I've listened to a lot of people say that you should never really pre-bait with shelf life baits because the carp don't really particularly like the preservatives used, and shelf life baits tend to be of a much lower nutritional value, so they don't really get a huge amount out of it. Well, what I can tell you about our NutriBait shelf life baits is whether it's trigger pine and buck, whether it's the Techni Spice, if it's a bird food base, whether it's a fish meal base, what I can tell you about our baits are they are exactly the same as our main freezer baits. The only difference with our freezer baits and our shelf life baits is our shelf lives have a small amount of human grade preservative added, and they are dried out longer, so they're a little bit more dehydrated. Due to the drying out process that the baits go through, the actual liquid ingredients such as the flavors and the attractors and the stimulants, they're boosted up a little bit so that on the drying out process that's not lost out of the boilie. So why would I bait up this time of year now, remembering it's very early spring? There is, I think, forecast for snow up here tonight. I'm hoping that doesn't come. But why would I use shelf lives rather than freezer baits? Well, it's simple. I want these to break down much slower in the water column. So having them slightly preserved and dehydrated, they're going to last longer out in the water, which is going to give more of a chance for the fish to come along and eventually find the bait. Over the next few days, we're going to see a real big rise in the temperatures. The sun's going to be out a lot more, and the fish will move along this marginal shelf. And as I say, I've chopped them up so that they don't roll down, and I'm also using a shelf life bait, knowing full well that it's got the same nutritional value as my main freezer baits, which is superb, but more importantly, it's going to last that little longer in the water without actually breaking down, so that there's more chance of lethargic fish coming across the bait and having a little nibble here and there. The bottom line is, don't fear shelf life baits if they're of a high quality. I can't stand for any other bait company, but what I can tell you is at NutriBaits, our shelf lives are the exact same recipe as our freezer baits. They just have a small amount of preservative added. The fish will be able to digest them just as well, and they will look after the fish and give the fish that stimulation that will bring them back for more. So use our baits, our shelf lives, in a pre-baiting situation with no hesitation at all. This is Gerry, 2 Minute Tuesday. Not a chance of it being 2 minutes, but you're used to that. See you soon.